Good afternoon, students. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. So let's start our class. In our last class, if you recollect, that we talked about our equilibrium criterion, and we will continue with that one. Okay. I hope you have completed that problem that we were doing. Okay. That A1 and A2, and I hope that you have completed the value of A2, computed the value of A2, and it should have come around 17 megawatt radians, and that should be since A2 is greater than A1, so we said that the system is stable. Okay, so let me share my screen on my student. Okay, so the recording has also started, so I will request everybody who are present that please write your name, roll number, and write present in the chat box. Okay, write your name, roll number, and write present in the chat box. Okay, so we're talking about our critical clearing angle now. Okay, so we finished our equilibrium criterion. So let us continue with our equilibrium criterion. And in this equilibrium criterion, we'll be talking about a very important time, a very important angle and time also, which is known as our critical clearing angle. Okay, so you can give the heading as critical clearing angle. Critical clearing angle. Okay, so suppose what we have uh, two transmission lines. Okay, suppose they are connected with the infinite bus. This P angle 0 degree, and this is our generator. Okay, this is circuit breaker 1, this is our circuit breaker 2, this is our circuit breaker 3, our circuit breaker 4. Okay, now what we are assuming that a fault has occurred between the circuit breakers 3 and 4. Okay, we are assuming that a fault has occurred here. Okay, that a fault has occurred around here. Okay, so what we are considering that the fault is not a sustained fault but is cleared by opening of the circuit breakers CB3 and CB4, okay, at both ends of the faulted line. Now what will happen, as you can see from this figure, that the fault will induce a transient change. Okay, the obviously we can understand that the fault will produce a transient change which may render the system unstable. Okay, so but if these circuit breakers are clears the fault within a certain time, then it is possible to maintain stability. Okay, so what we are saying is that a very important part, that the maximum value of time allowed for protective gear to operate without loss of stability, okay, is called the okay is called the critical clearing time. Okay, the maximum value of time allowed for the protective gear to operate without losing stability, okay, is called the critical clearing time. And obviously the torque angle corresponding to this corresponding to this time is called our critical clearing time. Okay, so we can define this critical clearing time in this way also, that the critical clearing or the critical not the critical clearing time, sorry, known as a critical clearing angle. Okay, the torque angle corresponding to this critical clearing time is called the critical clearing angle. Okay, so we can define this critical clearing angle in this way also, that it is the that that critical clearing angle is that uh, angle where the fault must be cleared, okay, for the synchronism to be maintained. Okay, we can also define this critical clearing angle as that angle where the fault must be cleared for the synchronization to be maintained. Okay, for the synchronization to be maintained. So what we can see from this particular figure, that actually there can be three curves. Okay, what are the three curves? Number one curve is the pre-fault curve when the system was as it is. Second curve is the fault duration curve when the fault has actually occurred. And the third one is our post-fault curve, that is the when the fault has been cleared. Okay, so correspondingly, let us draw the P delta curve then. So let us draw the P delta curve. And see which angle we are trying to define as our critical clearing angle. Okay, so this blue one is our pre-fault curve. Okay, this is our pre-fault curve. Okay, let this red one be our fault duration curve when the fault has occurred. Okay, let this be our fault duration curve. Okay, and let this be our green one when the fault has been cleared. Okay. Let this curve be the condition when the fault is cleared. Okay, so as you can see what we have, so this value is obviously pi, and this is we are starting from 0, and this line is our mechanical input line PS. Okay, this is our mechanical input line PS. So as you can see, there are three maximum points. Okay, so this is our Pmax 1. Okay, this is our maximum point. This is our Pmax 2. Okay, and this is our Pmax 3. Okay, so I'm again repeating what I've said, that this is the pre-fault curve A. Okay, this is the fault duration curve B. Okay, and this one is the post fault curve C. Okay, this is the post fault curve C. Now let us see the points actually. So in the first case, as you can see, that the operating point was at this point. Okay, so the operating point was at this point. This is so as you can understand that before the fault was means before the occurrence of the fault, the system was operating at point A on curve A. Okay, so and the corresponding angle is how much? The corresponding power angle or the delta or the torque angle is my delta 0. Okay, so what is happening? So fault has occurred. So operating point will be shifting from point A to point B. Okay, this is our point B. So fault is operating point is shifted from point A to point B on our curve B. Okay, so as you can see what is happening at point B, the mechanical power input is more than the electrical power output. Okay, so what will happen? So rotor will be accelerating. Okay, and the rotor will be accelerating to certain angle. Let that angle be our angle C. Okay, Let that angle be our angle point C. This point be C point. Okay. So at point C, what is happening? So, and the corresponding delta value, let it be delta 1. And as we know that the maximum obviously would be how much? It would be pi by 2, correct? Okay. So what I have said, so before the occurrence of the fault, the operating point was at A on curve A. Fault has occurred. So the operating point shift to point B on the fault duration curve B. At point B, we are seeing that the electrical power output PE, this is our PE, that is correct? The electrical power output PE is our less, okay? Electrical power output PE is less than the mechanical power input PS. Okay, this is our input line, okay? So what will happen? So the rotor will be accelerating and will accelerate to angle delta 1. That is corresponding to delta 1, the operating point on the fault duration curve is B. Sorry, C. Okay. So at angle C, what is happening? The circuit breakers 3 and 4 are switching out the faulty line. And since they are switching out the faulty line, so but that means that both of them is clearing the fault. So what will happen? So obviously the reactance value of this particular whole system would be changing. So what will happen? That the operating point would be moving, okay, would be moving from point C to our corresponding point E on our post-fault curve. Okay, so the operating point would be moving from point E to our point E on our post-fault curve C. Okay. So at point T, what will happen? As you can see that now the electrical power output is more than our input line PS. So what will happen? The rotor should be decelerating until the speed is equal to the synchronous speed. So we are seeing that at around point F, okay, at around point F, what we are seeing that the speed of the rotor is equal to the synchronous speed. Okay, so at point F, whose corresponding delta value B, it is delta 2. Okay, so what is, as you can see now, so at point F, the angle is how much? It is our delta 2. So what we can see from this particular thing is that we can see the two curves. What are the two areas? What are the two areas we can see? So this is the area, this A2 is our decelerating area, correct? Okay, where the rotor is decelerating. Okay, this A2 is our decelerating area, and this portion A1 is our accelerating area. Okay, this portion A1 is our accelerating area. So what we can infer from here is that for the systems to be stable, okay, for the system to be stable, we should be having area A2 is greater than equal to our area A1. Okay, so one thing again that can be seen from this particular figure is that if delta 1 increases, means it increases on the right hand side, then area A1 also increases. Okay, so to find A2 equal to A1, what will happen? The delta 2 is further increased. So up to how much delta 2 can be increased? As you can see, the delta 2 can be increased up to this point. Okay, delta 2 can be increased up to our this point. This is our delta M. Okay, so delta 2 can be increased up to our this point. Okay, so further delaying the switching of the circuit breakers increases A1, and the rotor speed is above the synchronous speed. Hence, for when this delta is greater than delta M, then what will happen? The operating point will be in this unstable zone and the synchronism will be lost. So according to this figure, which is the critical clearing angle within which the fault has to be cleared so that the synchronism is maintained? That is our delta 1. Understood? Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, so this is our critical clearing angle within which the circuit breakers CB3 and CB4 has to operate so that the fault is cleared. Okay, and the system and the synchronism is maintained. Okay, I hope it is clear. So with this knowledge, let us do one particular problem. Okay, this problem actually came in the semester few semesters back. This problem actually came. Let us write down the problem first, then we'll be trying to solve it. Okay, so what is the problem? The problem is a synchronous machine is delivering 1 per unit power to an infinite bus through a double circuit line. Okay, to draw the figure then. CB1, CB2, CB3, CB4. Okay, this obviously are this is our infinite bus. So it would be 1 angle 0 degree. So let us continue. So what it is said, the synchronous machine is delivering 1 per unit power to infinite bus through a double circuit line. Okay. So the direct axis transient reactance, that is our XD prime of the generator, is 0.3 per unit. Okay. And the per unit reactance for each line is 0.5. Okay, all reactances are given to a base of the machine rating. Okay, now what is happening? One of the transmission line experiences a solid three-phase fault to ground. Okay, so there is an SLG fault during which the reactances are shown. Okay, so reactances are shown. Let me draw the reactances. So it is okay. What it is showing is 0.15. Obviously in per unit, this is 0.5 in per unit. This 0.35 in per unit. This is J 0.3. This is 1.4. And obviously this portion is 1 angle 0 degree. Okay, so what we have to find? So determine the delta C, that is the critical clearing angle before which the circuit breakers of the faulted line should operate. Okay, so determine the critical clearing angle before which the circuit breakers of the faulted line should be operate if the stability is to be maintained. I hope I am clear. Okay. So I'm again repeating, the synchronous machine is delivering 1 per unit power to infinite bus through a double circuit line. The direct axis transient reactance of the generator is 0.3 per unit. The per unit reactance for each line is 0.5. All reactances are given to a base of the machine rating. One of the transmission line experiences a solid three-phase fault to ground, during which the reactances are shown. Determine the critical clearing angle, that is delta C, before which the circuit breakers of the faulted line should operate if stability is to be maintained. Okay. So how will be solving this problem? So as you can understand that how to tackle these problems means basically there are three curves that will be having. Number one is our pre-fault curve, which was our curve A. Second one was our post-fault curve, or means second one is our fault duration curve. There is our curve B. And the third one is our post-fault curve, okay, which was our curve C. So if you have seen those curves actually like this, again we have to draw the figure, okay. But now what we will be having, so now, but as you can see that the reactances values are given, so XA can be given, okay. XA would be there, that is our pre-fault reactance. Then we will be finding our XB, that is our fault duration reactance, and we will be finding our XC, that is our post-fault reactance, okay. So we'll be finding it, and we have to find out the delta, and we have to find out the delta C. So it is saying that determine the critical clearing angle before which the circuit breakers of the faulted line should operate if stability is to be maintained. Means in this, so for this particular problem, our delta 2 would be actually our delta M, okay, because what we said that we have to find a certain value of delta 1 such that our area A2 has to be greater than equal to our area A1. So so the maximum value up to which this area A2 can be extended, that is up to our delta M. So in our case, in this particular problem, so this A2 area would be extended up to our delta M, okay. So first of all, what we'll be doing, first of all, let us draw the figure then, okay, and then we'll be finding out the reactance values, okay. So first let us draw the figure. So again we'll be so let us draw the figure, let us find out the solution of this particular problem, okay. So let me write down the solution, okay. First of all, we have to draw the figure, and we'll be using the figure to find out the other things, okay. So let us draw the figures. We will be drawing the same figure, except that our delta 2 would be now our delta M, okay. This is our PE versus delta curve. So the blue curve was our curve A, okay. So our curve A, okay, and let this be our maximum value. So here would be equal to pi by 2, and this would be our pi, okay, starting from our 0. So corresponding to this one, what we are getting, this is our P max 1, okay. It's our curve A or pre-fault curve, okay. Then what we're drawing our post-fault curve, okay. And now it should not be such, the power for the post-fault curve will be less, no, so it would be somewhat something like this, okay. I think here it is wrong, if I draw it properly, okay. So this is our curve B, that is our fault duration curve, okay. Fault duration, okay. Then there would be our fault curve C, is our curve C, which is our post fault curve, means when the fault has been cleared, that condition. let this one be our input line. Okay, so what it is saying, it is delivering 1 per unit power. So the input line would be our 1. Okay, so corresponding to this portion, this is our Pmax 2, and corresponding to this, okay, this is our Pmax 3. Okay, so if we draw the operating points like we did in the previous case, so this was our operating point A, fault has occurred, so it is falling down to B, so the corresponding value of is our delta 0. So this is our point B. So the fault is being cleared, suppose at point C, so the corresponding, this is our delta 1, or we can say that this is our delta C. Okay, delta C. Corresponding here, the fault is cleared, so this point is our point E that we found out, and we said that up to here we can go for this portion. Okay, so this is our delta M. This delta M, please note, so this portion is our delta 2 here. So delta M is actually equal to pi minus delta 2. Okay, we can understand that. Okay, so let this point be our G. Okay, and let this point be our D. So this is our area curve A2, decelerating area. Okay, this is our accelerating area A1. Okay, so now we have to find these values, delta 0, delta 2, delta C, and so on. Okay, let us try to solve these portions. So first of all, what we have to do, we have to find out the reactance values. Okay, we have drawn the figure. I hope I am clear. Yes, till now you have understood.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so first of all, we have find out the reactances. So first of all, we are finding out the pre-fault reactance. So pre-fault reactance is just nothing but this figure. So this is the pre-fault reactance values. Okay, that is 0.5 ordinary per units. Okay, and J values, J, I'm not writing that. I hope you can understand. So this is the pre-fault condition, that is our XA. So what is the value of XA? What is the value of XA coming out to be? What is the value of XA coming out to be? How much it is coming? 0.3 plus 0.5 parallel, no? It is coming out to be around 0.55 per unit. Am I correct? Just check it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what is our post-fault reactance? What is our post-fault reactance? So in a post-fault reactance, our figure would be something like this only, because the second line or the faulty line has been cleared by circuit breakers 3 and 4. Okay, so it would be 0.5 and 0.3. So our X, this is the post-fault reactance, that is our XC. So XC would be only how much? It would be 0.8 per unit. Okay, now let us talk about our fault duration reactance. Okay, let us talk about our fault duration reactance. Okay, so what we have is the fault duration reactance. So the figure would be something like this. So this one was how much? 0.15, and this one is about 0.35. So 0.5, 0.15, 0.35, 0.3, and in this person the fault has occurred, no? Yes, correct. So we have to convert this. What is this form? This is as you can see, this in the delta form. We have to convert this to our star form. Okay. So we have to convert this particular expression into our star form into something like this. Okay. This is our 0.3. Our E angle delta. And this again would be converted to our this pi equivalent. So let this point be our point A and this point be our point C. This point be our point B. So then this point would be our point A, this would be point B, and this would be our point C. Okay, then this would be our point C. Okay, now tell me the values then. Tell me the values. Star delta transformation. Do it and tell me. What is the values of this particular reactants actually? Okay. Give me the value of XAC, that is our for duration reactants. First of all, tell me these values, and then I can understand that you are in the right path. We're converting this delta to star. Okay. So tell me the values. And then again we are converting this to our this form XAC. Okay, just find only XAC. For this particular figure, we'll be finding only XAC. We will not be finding the reactances values of these. Okay, why? Because these two reactances marked in red, okay, these reactances does not contribute to the power transfer that is occurring. Okay, that is occurring from A to C. Hence, only the reactants between the nodes A and C would be needed to be calculated. Okay, we will not be finding the reactances of these particular reactances. Why? Because these reactances marked in red does not contribute to the power transfer from A to C, and hence only the reactances between nodes A to C would be considered or would be needed to be calculated. Okay, so tell me what is the value of XAC? Yes, somebody. এই উপরেটা তো হয়েছে, ওগুলো বলো অ্যাটলিস্ট, এই প্যারামিটার গুলো।
Sir, is the metal component 1.8?
Which
Is
AC? Okay.
AC XAC?
Yes, correct. Okay. So please, everybody, you will finding out XAC to be 1.8 per unit. Okay. It would be coming out to be 1.8 per unit. The value of this one is coming out to be how much? At around 0.075, if I am correct. Okay. It is 0.075. This is 0.175, and this is 0.0525. Again, if you solve this one, so it comes out to be XAC equal to 1.8 per unit. Okay. Now what we're doing, we're finding out the pre-fault powers. Okay, let us find out the pre-fault power. Okay, so pre-fault power. So pre-fault power means our curve A. Pre-fault power means our curve A. Okay, so we are finding out this corresponding to this point A. Okay, so at point A, what we should be having? We should be having that P1, which is our pre-fault curve, that should be equal to P1 equal to E into V by XA into sine delta. Here it is delta 0 actually, correct? Corresponding to point A. Okay, see the value is delta 0 for our pre-fault curve. So what is our value of E? E is also given. E is given to be how much? 1.4. V is how much? It is given to be 1 angle 0 degree. And what we find out the value of XA? We found out the value of XA to be 0.55. Then what is the value of delta 0? Then what is the value of delta 0? Okay. Given, I am again, since E equal to how much? 1.5 per unit. V is equal to 1 angle 0 degree, and XA we have found out to be 0.55 per unit. And P1 is obviously equal to 1 because it is said that it is delivering 1 per unit power to an infinite bus. Okay. So if that is the case, then what is the value of delta 0? Please find it out, the value of delta 0 in radians. What is the value of delta 0? Find it out. What is the value of delta 0?
.4 radians.
0.4. Just go to 3 decimal places. So it is
0.403.
okay, 0.403. Correct. Okay, 0.403 radians. Now let us talk about our next curve. Next curve would be our fault duration curve. Okay, next curve is our fault duration curve. That is our curve B. Okay. So in this case, our output is how much? PE2. Okay. So here E is equal to how much? 1.4. V is equal to 1. And what is our XB? XB is equal to XAC here. It is 1.8 into sine delta. So it comes out to be how much? Just solve this one. So PE2 comes out to be how much? Is 1.4 by 1.8. How much it is coming? 0.77, 0.77. 3 decimal places, please. 0.778, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let us talk about curve C. Okay. That is our post-fault curve. Post-fault curve C. Okay. So here we have PE3 actually. Okay. So here would be 1.4 into 1 by our how much? We found out it to be 0.8. Correct. XC. XC we found out to be 0.8. It is our post-fault reactance XC. So then it comes out to be how much? PE3 comes out to be how much? Comes out to be
1.75.
1.75 sine delta. Okay. Now let us see this figure. So according to C, so this is our delta 2, no? So for this, the point where this curve C is equal with the input line 1 is this particular point. Okay. So let this point be our F point. Okay. Let this point be our F point. Okay. So if this point is our F point, so at point F, what we can say, so let me write down. So at point F, what we have of curve C, PE3 is equal to 1. Okay, and what is the value of delta? It is our delta 2. Okay, so with that condition, what is our value of delta 2 comes out to be? So we are finding out PE3 to be equal to 1 and delta equal to delta 2. Then what is the value of delta 2 coming out to be? Delta 2 corresponding to this point, operating point F. What is the delta value coming out to be? Delta 2 value? How much radians?
0.608.
0.608. Correct. Okay, 0.608 radians. Okay. So now what we know delta M also. So delta M is how much? It is pi minus delta 2. So it is how much? Pi minus delta 2 comes out to be how much? Pi minus delta 2 comes out to be how much?
2.533. 2.533.
2.533 radians. Okay. So for stability, what should be having? So for stability purpose, A1 should be equal to A2. Okay. That's the limiting criterion. So in our case, what we can write? A1 equal to how much? A1 equal to, as you can see, that it is PS. Okay. What is PS? This is our PS, no? This is our PS. Okay. So we can write PS into delta C minus delta 0. Okay. Delta C minus delta 0 minus, okay, what we can write? Minus integral of delta 0 minus the curve. Okay. Delta 0 to delta C, P max 2 sine delta d delta. Okay. Means we are talking about this particular curve. Okay. This particular curve, this portion minus this rectangular portion. Correct. So we can write it in this way. So we can write again this as PS delta C minus delta 0 plus P max 2, okay, cos delta C minus cos of delta naught. Okay. And what is our P max 2? P max 2 we have found out. See, this is our P max 2, no? This 0.778, this is our P max 2, because what we can write, since PE2 would be equal to P max 2 into sine delta. Correct. Okay, so this is our P max 2. Okay, so again what we can write, A2. If you see the curve properly, then what we can write, this is our A2, so this is the curve, no? EGD, this is the curve, and the rectangular portion is this dg by delta M minus delta C. Okay, so what we can write then from the A2, we can write integral of delta C to delta M P max 3, okay, sine delta d delta minus of PS delta M minus delta C. So what we can write? We can write P max 3 cos of delta C minus cos of delta M minus PS delta M minus delta C. Okay. So what will we do now? So we'll be equating these two equations. Okay. So equating these two equations, okay, what will be getting? We're getting cos delta C equal to, I am just doing it here, please check it. Okay, please check it. It's 2 cos delta naught plus P max 3 cos delta M by P max 3 minus P max 2. Okay, so obviously you will be putting the values, all the values here, and you're solving it, and you're finding out the delta C comes out to be around, just check it. Okay, I'm not solving it now, you will be solving it. Okay, just check that delta C would be coming out to be 1.59 radians, and that would be around around 91.3 degrees. Okay, so I hope equilibrium criterion for stability is clear. Yes, any questions till now? Any questions till now?
No, sir.
Okay. Now let us talk about how we can improve. I think you have class from 4, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I will be only talking about the improvement of steady state stability. We will talking about the improvement of transient stability later. Okay, so we are talking about methods of improving the stability. Okay, that is our methods of improving stability. Now, when we're talking about methods of improving stability, the first stability method that we comes into our mind is our steady state stability. Okay. So what is the steady state stability limit? P max is the steady state stability limit, correct? So if the equation P equal to E into V into X sine delta, this portion is our P max, no? This portion is our P max. So basically, steady state stability limit means we have to increase the steady state stability limit, means we have to increase our P max. So from the discussions that we have had till now, one thing is clear, that if we increase P max, then what will happen? If we increase P max, means if this portion of the curve, okay, this portion of the curve, this P max portion of the curve is increased, then what will happen? Then the rotor will be means then the rotor would be means the rotor can swing for a larger angle. Okay, the rotor can swing through a larger angle from its original position before it reaches a critical clearing angle. So what is happening, that if we increase or if we raise the value of this P max, then the critical clearing time is also increasing, and this in turn would be improving the system stability. Okay, so as we know that the steady state stability limit is given by this expression, that is P equal to EV by X sine delta, and this EV by X is our P max. So to improve this P max, or to raise the value of the P max, what we have to do? We have to either improve the terminal voltages, or we have to reduce the transfer reactance. Okay, now what are the methods that we actually do? So what we do is first, so how can we increase the steady state stability limit? So first of all, what we can do is that we can improve the terminal voltages. Okay, we can improve the terminal voltages. So improve the terminal voltages means that we have to somehow reduce the drop in voltage between the sending end and the receiving end. Okay, that's the one method. Now the other method what we can do, as you can see from this expression, is that we can reduce the transfer reactance. Okay, reduce the transfer reactance. Okay, now the question again comes that how can we reduce the transfer reactance? We can reduce the transfer reactance by the three methods. Number one is of use of bundle conductors. Okay, use of bundle conductors. So what it will do, so the use of bundle conductors means when we use bundle conductors as transmission lines, it reduces the line reactance to a considerable extent, and that will increase the power limit of the line. Okay, that will increase the power limit of the line. Second, what we have, second is obviously we can use of our double circuit transmission lines. Okay, we can use our double circuit transmission lines. Okay, so obviously we know from our class of power system planning and design that the impedance of a double circuit transmission line is less than that of a single circuit transmission line. Okay, so obviously then use of this double circuit transmission line will improve the transmission capability. Moreover, use of this double circuit transmission line will also ensure that the continuity of the supply is maintained. Okay, And the third one, which is also we have studied, is our use of series compensation of lines. Okay, use of series capacitors, actually series compensation of lines means, so the inductive reactance X can be reduced by introducing series capacitors, by connecting capacitors in series with the line. Okay, so these are the three methods by which we can actually reduce the transfer reactance X and thereby increase the steady state power system stability limit. Okay. Okay, one thing I should be mentioning, that when we're talking about this risk compensation of line, okay, there is one disadvantage. Okay, there is one disadvantage of using this series compensation of the line. What is the disadvantage? The disadvantage is that the protection of that particular line where we have a series capacitor becomes problematic. Okay, becomes problematic. Why? Because when you will be in the fourth year classes, when you're talking about relays, you'll be seeing that we are using actually distance relays. Okay, distance relays, what they measure? They measure the means, obviously the name is, means they measure the impedance of a particular transmission line. So suppose we have a particular transmission line. This is the sending end, this is the relay, this is the series capacitor, and this is the receiving end. So A is our sending end, B is our receiving end. Okay, so what is happening? This is our relay. Okay, so what is happening? Suppose a fault has occurred. Suppose a fault has occurred after the series capacitor, and you will be when we're talking about the distance relays, you will be seeing that the distance relays are actually means the relays would be actually operating within its zone. Okay, we'll be seeing that the relays are operating within its zone, and the distance relays means the first primary zone of a distance relay is set to about 80% of the transmission line. And suppose the fault has occurred beyond that 80% line, that is after the series capacitor. Okay, so what will happen, that since the fault has occurred after the series capacitor, okay, that this fault F would be sensed by this relay. Okay, would be sensed by this particular relay, and hence the relay would be tripped. Okay, now the question is, why this fault would be sent? This is so because what will happen, that since the fault is occurring after the series capacitor, so the impedance Z seen by this particular relay is very small. Okay, so the impedance plus the series capacitor, so the overall impedance decreases. So the impedance seen by the relay is very small, so it will sense that as if the fault is very near, although the fault may have occurred very far away from its zone. Understood what I have said? Understood? Yes. Have you understood what I have said just now?
Could you repeat it one more time?
I'm again saying that that the use of series capacitors is problematic, because the relays that we use in our transmission lines, those are all distance relays. Okay, and their primary fault protection zone is up to 80% of the transmission line. So suppose we have a transmission line, here we have A to B, and we have a series capacitor along the line. Okay, and the fault has occurred beyond the series capacitor. So this fault that is beyond the 80% protection zone of the relay would be sensing this fault. Why it is sensing this fault? Because the impedance seen by the relay is less. Why it is less? Because the impedance seen by the relay is that impedance up to the fault point is considering this particular series capacitor. So the impedance seen by the relay is very small, and so the relay would be tricked into seeing that that the fault is very near, although the fault may have occurred very far away. Now, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So with this, we finish our today's class. We'll be talking about our methods of improving the transient stability in our next classes. Okay. And okay, just let me stop the recording and stop the presentation. I want to ask one thing. Okay, on Thursday we have Bengal New Year. So do you want to do the class on that day, or we can prepone or postpone it? Yes. Can we prepone or postpone the class on Thursday?
Yes, sir. I think we should postpone this.
Okay, we should be postponing it. Okay, then shall we? Can we have the class on Friday or Saturday? Okay, just discuss among yourself and let me know. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, that would be better because we are very near. I need only 3 classes more, and then our syllabus will be over. Okay, only 3
Okay,
classes
okay.
more. Is at least 1 hour each. Then we can finish our syllabus. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So thank you, everybody. Will be just discuss it among yourselves, and please let me know by tomorrow. Then we can schedule something either on Friday or on Saturday. Okay.
Okay, sir. We'll let you know.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. You may leave the class.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.